Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Wow, guys, do I have an amazing upload for you guys today. Some terrifying encounters. But before we get into those encounters, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3. The audiobook version was written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. It's available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, and the links to those audiobooks are in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first encounter. I really don't know what made me think of this today, but many years ago my family was driving home from a shopping trip, and just for fun, my dad decided to take one of those scenic routes that ran through the mountains north of Park City, Utah. It was one of those dirt roads on which you could only drive like 20 miles an hour, so it took forever. And I remember being aggravated that we couldn't just take the highway. Well, I ended up noticing this weird heap off the side of the road, kind of hidden amongst the trees. I made my dad reverse the car, and that's when we realized it was some kind of animal. It was lying on its side as if asleep, and wore one of those cattle tracking collars around its neck. But we could tell that it wasn't a cow of any sort. Because it was facing away from us, we couldn't get a good look at its face. But it was about the size of a bear and had thick brown fur. The skull didn't really look like a bear's, though. The closest I could compare it to is the heads from the creatures where the wild things are. It was curled up in a ball the way people sometimes do when they are sleeping and trying to get warm. And we could see the soles of its feet. This was the creepiest part, because if it wasn't for the feet, we probably just would have assumed it was a bear. But these feet weren't paws. They were more human-like, much paler than the fur, and totally creepy. I could basically make out distinctive human toes, only these were much larger than the average person's. The way it was curled up and the way its head and feet looked led us to believe that this was not some ordinary animal. Obviously, with it lying down, we couldn't tell for sure, but it didn't look to be much taller than a person. It was round as well. I think that's one of the things that struck out most to me. This thing's body was almost comically spherical. Needless to say, none of us dared to get out of the car to investigate further. And after a moment of kind of looking at each other and going, "What the hell is that?" we decided to move on. Now, keep in mind, this took place circa 2006 or 7. So smartphones weren't as commonplace as they are now, and none of us had a good camera to snap a photo. Looking back, I really wish we did, because then maybe we could upload it to the internet and have gotten some answers. Quick interjection on this one. You know, knowing what I know and heard from Victor, we know they have tracking chips in them, but the way this creature is described leads me to almost think that it's a werewolf, possibly a Sasquatch. But I'm wondering why it would have some sort of tracking collar. I'm going to contact Victor. I'm going to send him a text or an email and see what he thinks of this. Hopefully I'll get a reply. I haven't really spoken to him since my dad's surgery. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on this. Today's second encounter is a subscriber submission. Hello everyone, my name is Redacted. I'm 47 years old and I live in Cleveland County, North Carolina. When I was younger, somewhere between 8 and 11 years old, maybe 12, I really don't know for sure, I was spending the night at my cousin's house, who is 2 years older than myself, and a girl. Another of our cousins was also spending the night. She was the eldest of us three and 3 years older than me. They were, and still are, my favorite of all my cousins. They were both tomboys at the time, and Lynn, my older cousin, was a ball player and a little more athletic than myself and Amy. They were both a head taller than me, as I had not grown hardly any. We were walking through a pine forest that had been replanted after it had been cleared out years earlier. We came across a leg in the woods, a large calf's leg, and it was fresh, as if the blood was still wet. It looked like it had just been ripped off. You could see the tendons and everything. Amy said that some of her relatives had some cows on her family's land, well over 100 acres that her grandparents had homestead. Her grandfather was full Cherokee and her grandmother was half German and half Cherokee. Anyhow, we weren't freaking out by the leg, and God knows why, 'cause I don't. So we kept walking deeper into the woods, just exploring. Well, we eventually came to a large field, probably 300 yards across, with sporadic pine trees that were about 10 feet tall, maybe a little less. When we see something that's medium to dark brown standing almost directly in the middle of that field. It looked like it was on all fours, and it looked fat. Lynn yelled that it was a bear. Well, it heard her and turned around. It wasn't on all fours, and it was not fat. When it turned around, it dropped the calf and was looking toward us. We didn't get a good look, whether it had a snout or a flat face, because we were hauling ass. Turns out Lynn wasn't the fastest, nor was Amy. I was hauling ass so much so I got clipped by a limb and fell, but I got right back up and made it out of the woods first. We told my mom and Amy's mom, and they told our dads when they got back from the side job upholstering recliners. Me and Amy took them to where we saw the calf leg. It was still there, but they couldn't make out any tracks because the ground was hard and covered in pine needles. Lynn didn't go back in the woods because she had called her mom and dad to get her. So we showed them the field where we saw whatever we saw, and we found the tree that it was standing near. They found blood and trampled weeds. Now, we didn't go into the woods unarmed. My dad had a 7mm Magnum rifle and a .44 Magnum revolver, and Amy's dad had a .30-06. Now, my uncle was a tall guy around 6'4", and he stood next to the tree it was at, and me and Amy went to where we were standing, and Stephen looked small beside the tree, but it did not. We went back to the house and headed home later. The next couple of days brought more incidents. Something tapped on Amy's window one night, and a track was found, and it was big, I was told. Something also left a muddy mark on the side of Amy's grandparents' home, way up high, and more tracks were found. As time went on, more people saw something, and it was given the name Knobby because of the mountain it was seen as, called Ben's Knob. Well, there you go. It's 100% true, as a matter of fact. Amy was at my mom's yesterday, and we were talking about this, and it was burned into our minds. My wife believes we saw what we saw. Thank you, and have a good day. Well, that is friggin' terrifying, and I am going to email this guy and hopefully have him on to share this encounter with us, because I'd really like to hear it through his own words. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that one, because I really did. Actually, I'm enjoying both of these so far, and I've got some good ones coming. Here we go. Today's third encounter. My encounter happened on the season opener in November of 2013 in the eastern Upper Peninsula of Michigan on a family's hunting property near a town called Cedarville. The house my husband and I were staying in up there had a big front yard, and other than that, cleared area and a gravel driveway. Everything else is pretty deep hardwood forest. I also want to state ahead of time that this happened at around 11 p.m., so everything that's beyond the porch lights is pretty hard to see. My husband and I had gone outside to have a cigarette, and we took our rifle out with us whenever we are hanging around outside because there's bear and stuff in that area. I was up on the porch still, and my husband had gone down the steps into the yard and was facing toward me, when we heard these really heavy, slow footsteps coming up the driveway through the woods. It sounded like a really big man, but there was this weird heavy breathing as well, and the footsteps, even though they sounded like a person, sounded heavier than anything I had ever heard walking in the woods, including my full-sized adult bear. My husband looked at me and mouthed, "What the fuck?" And I was trying to figure out what it was that I was hearing, but nothing I had ever heard out there in those woods in my whole life matched the size and breathing and gait of whatever this was, so I was confused and shaking my head. My husband isn't a hunter and grew up in the city, so he's completely confused as well. I've hunted and tracked basically everything that's indigenous to northern Michigan, so I was small, so I was honestly terrified that this animal was completely unknown to me by sound. It walked out of the tree line at the edge of the yard behind my husband, and it was a lot taller than him, at least 7 feet or more. I'd estimate its weight to be the size of 400 pounds. It was on 2 legs and had super dark black fur that was somehow even darker than the nighttime dark of the woods. It was walking back and forth at that distance from us the whole time this encounter happened, but it would not step into where the perimeter of the porch light was. I had a really hard time making out its torso for that reason, but I saw a wolf-like head and snout with pointed ears that stuck straight up, and instead of front legs and paws, it had really disproportionately long arms and hands. It was on 2 legs this whole time, walking back and forth. I freaked out and grabbed the rifle and just started shooting at it and yelling at my husband to run and get on the porch, so he did. And then he took the gun from me and told me to find something to use as a weapon and go inside and hide. So I did. I got a big knife and went and locked myself into our bedroom closet, and I could hear my husband shooting and reloading a bunch for about 10 minutes. He came in and told me through the closet door that the Dogman had finally run off, but he wasn't sure if it was going to possibly come back. So we were both pretty terrified, and I ended up staying in the closet all night until sunrise with my husband guarding the door with the gun. He told me that he thought I had hit it when I was shooting at the first, but the next day we couldn't find any blood or hair or anything, which I thought was weird, because I really thought I must have shot and wounded it a couple times. It moved incredibly fast, though, and was agile enough to run through the brush and stuff without really mowing it down or making a bunch of noise like big animals usually do, running through dense underbrush and stuff. The whole encounter was incredibly weird and scary. My husband also said that he did see it sort of hunched over and drop onto all fours a few times while it was running back and forth on the edge of the yard. But that when it ran away for good that night, it was running insanely fast and on 2 legs like a man. We didn't smell anything bad like a lot of people describe when they see these things, and it didn't even leave any noticeable tracks anywhere, even though the thing was so heavy when it was walking up the gravel driveway that I swore the ground near it must have been shaking. We found out later from one of the neighbors that he had seen it too, next door the winter before, when it came up on the porch of his cabin and looked in the window during a party he and his wife had been throwing. He said he heard really heavy footsteps on the porch and pulled back the curtain of the window, and this Dogman was standing there on the other side of the glass looking down at him, but that its fur was white then. I think that's probably because there was snow on the ground at this point in the year. My neighbor hollered at everyone in the cabin and told them what he had just seen, and then everyone decided to make a run for it through the woods to his mom's house next door, since her place was a lot sturdier than a hunting cabin. I've known that neighbor my whole life, practically since high school, and he would never make something up like that. He was scared, even while he was talking about it. I've also read somewhere online recently that another family about 45 miles north of our area had a bunch of livestock like cows and horses turn up dead and torn up by some kind of big predator, and that one of the guys in the family saw a giant upright wolf back near his hunting blind during deer season, which of course freaked me out since we had our experience on season opener. The land up to that family's property is hundreds of miles of Hiawatha National Forest, so it would make sense to me that a big animal would hide in and near protected land when it hearing gunshots everywhere else. My lot and my neighbor's lot also are right alongside state land. My husband and I moved since this all happened, but the experience was so upsetting to me that I constantly research online to see if anyone else has seen this thing up north and what their encounter was like and stuff. I've even heard that there's a small pack of about 4 or 5 of them that live in state forest downstate in Isabella County that a bunch of locals in the nearby area have seen, and that somebody even saw one night at the downtown Saginaw, Michigan. What scares me about this is the fact that there is no tree cover. That's a city. I wonder if people all over the state are seeing these animals because they're getting forced out of their usual hiding territories due to hunting, logging, mining. It's really increased over the years up here. If anyone else is from Michigan and has an experience, please share, let me know. I remember a couple of years ago, well, it was about 2 years ago when that subscriber sent me that encounter. And that encounter has blown me away. It's one of those ones that stick with you. I can just imagine her being terrified in the closet. And, I mean, it's insane. It's truly insane how just, it's so much of a gut punch when you encounter one of these things. And like she said, at the end of it all, she is obsessed now. Obsessed with finding out answers. And that's what happens. One of 2 things. Obsession or just complete depression. Today's final encounter. Vietnam Net Bridge. Hundreds of households in Binh Dong Commune in Binh San District in Quang Gay are living in panic after mysterious footprints were seen on the sand and loud roaring sounds heard in the area. According to Ko Ten San, police chief of the Binh Dong Commune, these mysterious incidents have been occurring since May 7th at the foot of the Dinh Mountain in Sun Tre Commune. However, no one has seen the strange creature that could have caused such large footprints, measuring almost 12 to 15 centimeters. Over 20 dogs have also been killed in the area, and now 280 households of the commune are living in panic. Nguyen Thai Vic Ngag, a 70-year-old woman, was the first to find her dead dog on the night of May 7th. She said her dog was found without its head and some of its body organs. On the same night, 4 dogs were also found dead in the same manner, approximately 15 to 20 kilograms from Ngag's neighborhood. Many households living near the Dinh Mountain said they have heard very loud roars. In related news, in the border districts of the Sai Ma Khe and Mung Kong in the northwest province of Lê Sê, people have repeated seeing strange species of dog-like animals. The strange creatures have bitten about 15 people in Ben Mi, or Thay Chu Pin, Quang Then Sen, and Si Ma Sai communes in the 2 districts. According to local residents, the strange dog-like creatures have slender, long bodies, slanted red eyes, and their fur coats is marked with white spots, black and white spots or yellow spots. They've been seen wandering in villages, trying to prey on house dogs or attacking other domestic bred animals like chickens, pigs, goats, and horses. They attack any person who tries to drive them away. So this last part of the upload, I'm wondering if these are juvenile dogmen. Acting like little creeps, like teenage boys. Just kidding. But, I'm not. I'm thinking they could possibly be juvenile dogmen and just, not had the discipline and lack of fear or whatever, just going into the villages and, attacking whatever. I'm almost, I don't know, something in my gut is telling me possibly juvenile dogmen on this one. Definitely. I mean, the description fits in my eyes, so I'm not really sure. Just theory, that's all we have, theory. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I want to thank you for always supporting the channel, and have a great night, guys, and see ya!